Part 1. The galaxy had been quiet for a long time, quiet in the way a forest feels quiet before a storm. Stars burned, fleets moved, empires rose and fell, but nothing truly unexpected had happened in centuries. The Valorian Dominion ruled most known space. Their ships filled the trade lanes, their law reached across hundreds of systems. To them, the galaxy was already conquered. Then the distress signal appeared. It was weak at first, barely a whisper under the background noise of space. Old, cracked, and repeating on a narrow band no one used anymore. At a listening station near the edge of Valorian territory, an operator noticed the pattern. It did not match any known species code. It did not repeat cleanly. Parts of it were broken, as if time itself had worn it down. The operator flagged it as debris noise, but the signal kept coming back, always from the same direction, always steady, always calling. Within days, the signal reached the Dominion's central command. Analysts argued over it, but most agreed on one thing. The source lay in a dead system, a place marked on ancient maps as empty and useless. No habitable worlds, no resources worth mining, no reason for life. The Dominion Council approved a response, more out of boredom than fear. A small fleet would investigate, record the source, and erase it if needed. There was no concern. No enemy had ever survived direct contact with the Dominion. Humans were not part of that meeting. Far from Valorian space, on the edge of forgotten routes, a small human salvage ship drifted near a field of broken metal and stone. The ship was old but well cared for. Its hull carried scars from micrometeor strikes and patchwork repairs. Inside, a crew of 6 worked in silence. Jack Carter floated near a viewport, watching the slow turn of a dead satellite. His hair was dark, cut short, his face calm but tired. He had spent most of his life in places like this, where old wars and lost dreams drifted together. Laura Bennett was at the console behind him. She tapped through scans, her eyes moving fast. She frowned slightly. "This area should be empty," she said, "but I keep seeing faint power traces." Jack turned. "Old reactors, older than that," Laura said. "The signature is strange. Like something very deep is still running." Ethan Moore pushed off from a bulkhead and drifted closer. He was younger than the others, curious in a way that had not yet been worn down. He looked at the data. "This region is marked pre-expansion," he said, "before humans spread out." Jack nodded. "Yeah, before the collapse stories. Most people treated those stories like myths, tales of early human space that burned too bright and then vanished. Records were lost, archives destroyed. All that remained were rumors of great cities, weapons that could break stars, and warnings no one could verify. The crew did not talk about those things much. Salvagers learned early that some questions only led to trouble. The ship's sensors chirped softly. Laura stiffened. "Jack, I'm picking up a signal." Ethan leaned in. "Distress?" Laura nodded slowly. "Yes, but it's ancient, very ancient." The signal matched the one the Valorian Dominion had found, though none of them knew that yet. It had crossed space for a long time, patient and unchanging. Jack felt a cold weight settle in his chest. "Human tech?" he asked. Laura swallowed. "Yes, I think so." Silence filled the ship. Humans had rules about old things, unspoken ones. If you found ruins older than the expansion, you logged them and stayed away. You did not poke. You did not wake anything. Too many ships had vanished after ignoring that wisdom. Ethan broke the silence. "It's still running after all this time. Whatever built it didn't expect to be gone forever." Jack looked at the drifting satellite outside. It was covered in symbols, worn smooth by dust and radiation. They were human symbols, old language forms barely taught anymore. "We don't touch it," Jack said. "We record and leave." Laura nodded, but her eyes stayed on the screen. "Jack, there's more." She brought up a wide scan. Beyond the satellite, hidden in the shadow of a shattered moon, something massive slept. At first it looked like natural rock. Then the shape resolved. Straight lines, symmetry, purpose. Ethan whispered, "That's not debris." "No," Jack said quietly, "that's a structure." It was larger than any station humans built now. Its surface was dark, layered, almost grown instead of assembled. Deep grooves ran along it like veins. Parts of it glowed faintly, reacting to the ship's presence. Laura's hands shook slightly. "This isn't in any database." Jack felt a strange pull, like standing near a grave that was not done with the living. He knew they should leave. Every instinct told him so. And yet the distress signal pulsed again, stronger now. Far away, the Valorian fleet entered the dead system. Sleek warships slid out of faster space, weapons charged, shields bright. Their commanders expected nothing. What they found confused them. Scans returned massive anomalies, objects far larger than predicted, power readings that made no sense. The system was not dead. It was sleeping. The Valorians moved closer, spreading out, confident in their numbers. They sent probes toward the source of the signal. The probes vanished. Back on the human ship, warning lights flashed. Laura gasped. Something just activated. The structure near them began to shift. Plates moved. Light spread across its surface like slow fire. Not attacking, waking. Ethan stared. It's responding to us. Jack felt his breath catch. Not to us, he said, to the signal or to what we are. The distress call changed. Its broken pattern smoothed. New layers appeared. Data streams opened, pouring into space. Laura's console filled with symbols, human symbols, old but readable. She started translating aloud, her voice quiet. "This is a marker," she said, a warning beacon. Placed to mark a restricted zone. Jack closed his eyes, restricted from what? Laura kept reading, from us. Ethan frowned. Us who? Laura looked up, fear clear on her face. Humanity. The message continued, fragment by fragment. It spoke of great power sealed away. Of watchers left behind. Of a promise made by those who came before. We will not rule forever, the message said, because no one should. Jack felt small, floating before something that dwarfed his life and his species present. He understood then why the old stories never fully died. Humanity had not been weak, it had been afraid of itself. The structure finished waking, it did not target the human ship. Instead, it adjusted its position, placing itself between the signal source and the rest of the system like a shield. Far across the void, Valorian ships detected the change. Alarms rang. Their commanders ordered scans, then weapons lock. They saw the structure as a threat. They did not yet understand that it was not built for war. It was built for restraint. As the distress signal echoed once more, steady and clear, the galaxy took its first step toward remembering something it had hoped was gone forever. The Valorian fleet moved deeper into the dead system with calm purpose. Their ships were shaped like blades, smooth and sharp, built to remind others of power. To the Valorians, fear was a tool, and they had used it for generations. Their sensors struggled. Screens filled with errors, shadows, and readings that changed every second. Objects appeared where nothing should be, then faded again. Gravity pulled in strange ways. Space itself felt thick, as if it resisted movement. Commander Zaleth stood on the command deck of the lead ship. His posture was straight, his voice controlled. "Increase scan range," he ordered. "I want full mapping of every object." The officers obeyed, though unease crept through the crew. This system was wrong. Even silence here felt heavy. Then the scans cleared enough to show the truth. Structures, not wreckage, not natural formations. Vast constructions hung between planets and debris fields. Some were the size of cities. Others stretched for thousands of kilometers, their edges lost in shadow. They were arranged with clear intent, like pieces of a design too large to see at once, and every structure matched the same unknown style. Zaleth narrowed his eyes. Identify origin. "No known species match," an officer replied. "Material composition is beyond our records. Power levels are extreme but controlled." "Controlled," Zaleth repeated. "Ancient ruins do not control power." He paused, then added, "Send probes. I want close data." Dozens of drones launched from the fleet, racing toward the nearest structure. They crossed a silent boundary, one no map had marked. And then they stopped. Every probe froze at the same distance. Their systems went dark, not destroyed, simply turned off. They drifted, harmless and useless. Murmurs spread across the decks. Zaleth felt a flicker of irritation. Deploy a second wave, shielded. The second wave fared no better. Something in the system was watching. Not far away, Jack Carter's ship hung motionless. The crew watched the ancient structure finish unfolding. Panels slid aside with slow grace. Lights pulsed in deep blues and soft whites. There was no aggression in its movement, only awareness. Laura Bennett worked through translation streams as fast as she could. Her voice trembled at times, but she kept going. "These are not just ruins," she said. "They're part of a network. There are many of them all across the system." Ethan Moore floated near her, eyes wide. "How big is it?" Laura shook her head. "I can't even tell. Parts of it are hidden in folded space. That kind of tech is beyond modern human science." Jack listened quietly. He felt a strange mix of fear and familiarity, like standing in a place he had never been but somehow knew. Another voice joined them over the internal channel. Claire Adams had been silent until now, buried in historical archives. She finally looked up, pale. I found references, she said, fragments, banned files, early expansion logs. Jack turned toward her. Say it. She swallowed. They matched this architecture. These places were called Guardians. Ethan frowned. Guardians of what? Claire looked at the glowing structure of us. The data streams changed again. This time the message was not a warning. It was a record. Images formed, simple and clear. They showed human worlds long gone. Shining cities wrapped around stars. Fleets that darkened space. Machines that shaped planets like clay. And then the images shifted. Weapons appeared. Devices that bent gravity into blades. Engines that fed on stars. Tools that could erase systems with a command. The tone of the record changed. Fear replaced pride. Laura whispered, "We did this." Jack felt his hands tighten. Yes, the record showed councils, debates, faces worn by guilt. Humanity had reached a point where nothing could stop it, not even itself, so it had stopped. The Guardians were built not to fight enemies, but to lock away power, to watch, to decide who could pass and who could not. Ethan shook his head slowly. We built gods and told them to keep us in check. Claire nodded, and then we left, scattered, erased records. Became smaller on purpose. Outside, the Valorian fleet moved closer, weapons charged. Their sensors read the growing energy of the Guardians as a threat. Zaleth stood firm, prepared to fire a warning shot. An officer hesitated. "Commander, the energy readings suggest retaliation could be severe." Zaleth's voice hardened. "Nothing stands above the Dominion." The order was given. A single beam of focused energy struck the nearest Guardian. Nothing exploded. The beam bent, slowed, and faded like light sinking into deep water. The Guardian did not react in anger. It simply adjusted. Space around the Valorian ships shifted. Suddenly, their formation broke. Ships found themselves light seconds apart instead of meters. Communication lagged. Navigation failed. Panic spread. On the human ship, alarms rang. Laura gasped. "The Guardians are active system-wide." Jack clenched his jaw. "Are they attacking?" "No," Laura said. "They're isolating." Ethan looked at the display showing Valorian ships drifting, unable to regroup. "That's not an attack, that's control." A new signal opened, directed only at the human vessel. Laura froze. "It's addressing us directly." Jack nodded. "Open channel." The voice that came through was calm, layered, and strangely gentle. Not male or female, not young or old. "Caretakers detected," it said. "Genetic markers confirmed." Ethan whispered, "Caretakers." Jack swallowed. "We're just salvagers." The voice replied, "You are human." That was enough. The voice continued. "Non-human force has entered restricted space. Protocol requires containment." Laura asked softly, "Will you destroy them?" "No," the voice answered. Destruction was forbidden. Jack felt a strange pride rise in his chest, even now. "What happens to us?" he asked. "You are not restricted," the voice said, "but knowledge transfer carries burden." Claire spoke up. "We already feel it." Outside, more Guardians awakened. Massive shapes emerged from darkness, positioning themselves with perfect precision. The Valorian fleet was surrounded not by weapons but by silence. Zaleth watched his command screens go blank one by one. His fleet, his power, reduced to nothing without a single shot fired. "What is this?" he demanded. No one answered. A message appeared on Valorian displays, translated automatically. "You have entered a sealed domain. You are not under attack. You are under judgment." Fear, true fear, gripped the Valorian crews. They had ruled through force for so long that they could not understand mercy. On the human ship, the crew watched history shift. Ethan spoke quietly. "The galaxy thought we were small." Jack nodded. "We chose to be." Laura looked at the stars beyond the Guardian's glow, and now they're going to learn why. The distress signal continued to echo, no longer broken, no longer weak. It was clear, and it was being heard. Part 3, the Valorian fleet drifted in the system like dead fish in a calm sea. Their engines ran but did not move them. Their weapons were ready but could not fire. Their crews were alive but felt trapped. Commander Zaleth stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the empty space where his fleet should have been. The Guardians surrounded them, quiet and still. They were not attacking. They were only watching. Zaleth's pride fought his fear. He had never lost control before. He had never been stopped without a fight. Now he was stopped by a thing that did not even seem angry. He ordered the ship's translation systems to capture the Guardian's message. He needed to understand what was happening. If he could not fight, he would at least learn. A new signal appeared and the ship's speakers played it. "You have entered restricted space," the voice said. "You are not to leave." Zaleth stepped forward. "Restricted by who?" The voice paused as if considering the question. By those who built this domain, it said, by those who chose to leave. Zaleth's face tightened. You speak of humans, the voice replied, you speak of the species you call weak, the species that vanished. The species that left power behind. Zaleth's officers looked at him, fear in their eyes. They had heard stories of humans. They had heard that humans were violent, unpredictable, and dangerous. But they also believed the stories were old and exaggerated. Now the stories seemed like warnings. On the human salvage ship, Jack Carter and his crew watched the Valorian fleet trapped by the Guardians. They did not feel joy. They felt something heavier, responsibility. Ethan Moore stared at the screens, his voice quiet. They're not attacking them, they're stopping them. Laura Bennett nodded, and they're not stopping us. Claire Adams looked away, her eyes wet. It's like they know who we are, like they know what we did. Jack turned to them. What do they want? The voice spoke again, this time directed at the human ship. The Guardian's words felt like a lesson. Your species created a great threat, it said. You sealed it, you left. Now the seal is weakening. Jack swallowed, weakening. Laura looked up. How? The voice continued. Time, decay, and the greed of others. Your warning beacon was heard, now others have come. Zaleth's voice broke through the human ship's speakers. He had found the channel. He sounded angry, but his anger was thin. Human vessel, he said. You brought them here. Jack stared at the comm screen. He did not answer right away. Laura spoke first. We didn't know they were here. Zaleth's eyes narrowed. Your species is full of lies. You always are. Jack held his breath. He knew the Valorians had a reason to hate humans. But the accusation was unfair. The human ship was only a small crew. They had not invited the Valorians. They had only followed a signal. Jack's voice was steady. We didn't bring anyone. We just followed a distress call. Zaleth scoffed. Distress call or trap. The Guardian voice interrupted. It is neither. It is a warning. Zaleth snapped. A warning for what? For you to leave? For us to bow? The Guardian voice answered. For the seal to remain. Jack frowned. Seal. Laura leaned forward. The record said a seal. It locked something away. Claire whispered something terrible. The Guardian voice continued. The seal is failing because of your kind. Zaleth's face twisted in anger. Our kind. The Dominion does not bow to anyone. The voice replied, you will not bow. You will be contained. The Valorian commander's pride cracked. He looked at his officers, then at the empty space outside. He realized he was trapped not by weapons, but by the memory of a species he thought was gone. He spoke to his crew. Prepare for containment. Do not panic. Follow orders. But panic had already started. Whispers ran through the fleet. Some officers begged for escape. Others wanted to fight. The Valorian culture had never faced a situation without violence as a solution. Zaleth turned back to the comm, to the human ship. You will help us. Jack stared. Help you? Zaleth's voice was sharp. You are human. You know their ways. You know their history. You will translate the records. You will tell us what to do. Jack shook his head. Why would we help you? Zaleth's eyes burned with anger. Because if you do not, we will destroy you. The threat hung in the air. The Guardians remained quiet. Jack's heart pounded. He did not like the Valorians. He did not trust them. But he also knew the Guardians were not lying. The seal was failing. He thought of his crew. Of the human race, small and scattered, but still alive. If the seal broke, whatever was locked away would not care about Valorians or humans. It would only care about power. Jack took a deep breath. He spoke carefully. We will help, he said, but not because you threaten us. Because the seal failing is a threat to everyone. Zaleth stared at him, surprised. Jack continued, but we set rules. We decide what we share. We decide what you do. Zaleth's anger rose again. You will obey. Jack nodded. Yes. The Guardian voice spoke again as if approving. Cooperation is permitted, but you must not break the seal. Laura looked at Jack. She was scared. But she also felt the weight of what they were about to do. Jack turned to her. We have to go inside. Laura's eyes widened. Inside the Guardian, Jack nodded. The Guardian has doors. The signal is coming from inside. Ethan spoke up. Is it safe? Jack looked at him. Nothing about this is safe. But it is necessary. Claire added, the records might tell us how to strengthen the seal. Jack nodded. We find out. We learn. We do what we must. The human ship moved closer to the Guardian. The structure shifted, opening a large passage. It was not like a door. It was like a mouth opening in slow motion. Jack felt a chill. The passage was dark, but inside, faint light moved like living water. Laura hesitated. Jack, what if it is a trap? Jack looked at her. We are already in a trap. This is the only way out. They entered. The inside was not empty. It was full of halls and chambers built with clean lines and silent purpose. The walls glowed with soft light, like the inside of a living organism. The air inside was not air. It was a controlled environment, a perfect imitation of breathable atmosphere. As they moved deeper, the walls displayed images, not just pictures, but moving scenes. They showed human history, old and new. Jack watched, his heart heavy. He saw the early expansion. He saw the first ships leaving Earth. He saw humans building cities in space. He saw wars and victories. He saw pride. Then he saw fear. He saw humans building weapons so powerful that entire star systems could vanish. He saw the moment they realized what they had done. And he saw the decision to leave, the decision to hide, the decision to build guardians, the decision to lock away their own power. Laura whispered they did it on purpose. Jack nodded. Yes, Ethan looked around. Why would they do that? Why not keep the power? Claire answered, because power without control destroys everything. Jack felt tears in his eyes. He did not know if he was proud or ashamed. The halls led them to a chamber that was larger than any building he had ever seen. The ceiling was far above, lost in light. In the center stood a tall structure, like a tower made of dark metal. It pulsed with energy, slow and steady. Laura approached it, her hand trembling. She touched the surface. It was warm, like a living thing. The guardian voice spoke again inside the chamber. You have reached the heart of the seal. Jack looked up. Who are you? The voice answered, we are the guardians. We were built to watch. We were built to keep. Ethan asked, keep what? The voice paused. Keep what you were not ready to control. Jack felt the meaning hit him like a blow. The seal was not just a lock. It was a promise. A promise that the human race would not use its power again. That they would not become a threat to the galaxy. And now the seal was failing. Jack looked at the tower. He asked, can it be repaired? The guardian voice answered, yes, but it requires a sacrifice. Jack's blood ran cold. Sacrifice. Laura asked, what kind? The voice replied, the seal needs a caretaker, someone to bind their life to the structure, someone to remain behind. Jack's heart stopped. He looked at his crew. Ethan's face went pale. No, I'm not staying. Claire shook her head. We can't. Laura whispered, we are not that important. Jack stepped forward. He looked at the Guardian Tower. He thought of the Valorian fleet outside, trapped and angry. He thought of the human race, scattered and weak. He thought of the power that had once almost destroyed everything. And he realized the truth. This was not about winning. This was about saving. Jack spoke, his voice steady. We will do it. Laura looked at him in shock. What? Jack turned to her. I will stay. I will become the caretaker. Laura's eyes filled with tears. Jack, no. Jack shook his head. I can't let this break. I can't let the power be released. Ethan shouted, you can't just. Jack cut him off. I can. Claire's voice broke. Jack, you don't know what happens. Jack looked at her. Neither do you, but we do know one thing. If the seal fails, the galaxy dies. The guardian voice spoke softly. The choice is yours. Jack stepped closer to the tower. He placed his hand on it. The tower pulsed and the light grew brighter. The chamber filled with warmth. Jack felt something change inside him. A connection, a bond. The guardians were not just machines. They were alive in a way humans had forgotten. They could choose, they could feel, they could understand. Jack whispered, I accept. The guardian voice replied, then you will be the caretaker. You will remain. Your life will feed the seal. Your mind will hold the lock. Jack felt the weight of the decision. He would never leave. He would never see his home again. He would never see the stars outside. But he knew it was right. Outside, the Valorian fleet watched the human ship disappear into the Guardian. They felt fear and anger, but also confusion. They did not understand why the humans would choose this. Commander Zaleth watched the systems on his screen. He felt his power slipping. He felt his empire weakening. He realized for the first time that the galaxy was not his to command, and he realized the truth. Humans were not weak. Humans were the ones who had built the Guardians. Humans were the ones who had once ruled the stars. And humans had chosen to leave. The distress signal echoed again, clear and steady. It was not a call for help. It was a warning, and the galaxy was finally listening. Part 4, the Valorian fleet drifted in the system, trapped and quiet. The Guardians kept them in place like a gentle hand holding a wild animal. No one could move. No one could fight. No one could escape. Commander Zaleth stood on the bridge, staring at the empty space outside. He had always believed power was everything. He had always believed fear was the only language the galaxy understood. Now he was learning a new truth. Power could be stopped, and fear could be controlled. He looked at the comm screen. The human ship had disappeared into the Guardian. He felt anger, but also a strange sense of loss. He did not understand why the humans would do what they did. He had expected them to be selfish. He had expected them to fight. Instead, they had vanished. Zaleth turned to his officers. "What now?" he asked. One officer spoke, voice trembling. "We cannot leave. We cannot fight. We are trapped." Zaleth nodded. "Yes, and the Guardians will not kill us. They are not evil," another officer spoke. "Then why are we here?" Zaleth stared at the stars. He did not have an answer. The truth was too large to fit into his mind. The Guardians spoke again, their voice calm. "The seal is secure. The threat is contained." Zaleth's eyes widened. Contained. The Valorian officers exchanged confused looks. If the threat was contained, why were they still trapped? The Guardian voice answered, "You are here because you entered a restricted domain. You must learn." Zaleth's face tightened. "Learn what?" The voice replied, "The cost of power." The Valorians had never been taught that power came with a price. They had only been taught that power was the price. Outside, the galaxy continued to move. Stars burned, ships traveled, life went on, but something had changed. The Valorian Empire, the largest force in the galaxy, was now a prisoner of a long-dead human system. News traveled fast. Messages from the system spread across the network. The Dominion's silence was broken by panic. Trade routes slowed. Alliances shifted. The galaxy had been ruled by a single power for so long that no one knew how to act without it. Some worlds cheered. Some worlds feared. Some worlds simply watched, waiting for what would happen next. In the human settlements on the edge of known space, people heard the news. They did not know the full story. They only knew that the Valorians had vanished from the sky. Many believed it was a miracle. Others believed it was a trap. But all of them felt the same thing: hope. Hope that the galaxy might change. Back in the Guardian chamber, Jack Carter stood with his hands still on the tower. The bond had formed. His mind was connected to the seal. He could feel the power locked away like a sleeping storm deep inside the structure. He could feel the Guardians around him. They were not machines. They were minds. They were old. They were tired. They had been waiting for someone to return. Jack's voice echoed in the chamber, though he did not speak aloud. The Guardians could hear him. "Is it done?" he asked. The voice replied, "The seal is secure, but the system is not stable. The Valorians have entered. Their presence weakens the barrier." Jack's heart sank. "They are still here." The Guardian voice continued, "The seal will hold, but it must be strengthened. The only way is to rebuild the network." Jack frowned. "Rebuild." The voice explained, "The Guardians were once many. This system is only one part." The network spread across the galaxy. It was broken when humanity left. Jack felt the weight of the truth. The Guardians had been scattered. The seal had weakened. The Valorians had found the signal, and now the galaxy was awake. He understood then why the Guardians had been so careful. They were not just protecting the galaxy from a human threat. They were protecting the galaxy from itself. Jack looked at the tower. "How do we rebuild?" he asked. The voice replied, "By awakening the other Guardians. By restoring the network. By teaching the galaxy what it once knew." Jack swallowed. "And what about me?" The voice answered, "You will remain as caretaker. Your life will bind the seal. But you will not be alone. The network will share the burden." Jack felt a strange relief. He was still sacrificing, but he was not alone. He thought of his crew, of Laura, Ethan, and Claire. He wondered if they would ever leave. The Guardian voice spoke again. "They may leave, they may not. The choice is theirs." Jack closed his eyes. He knew what he wanted. He turned to the passage that led out of the chamber. He called to his crew. "Laura, Ethan, Claire, come." They appeared in the chamber, faces pale and eyes full of fear. Jack looked at them. "I'm staying," he said, "but you can leave." Laura shook her head. "No. I'm not leaving you here." Jack smiled sadly. "You don't have to. The Guardians will not force you. You can go." Ethan spoke, voice shaking. "I can't just leave you." Jack put his hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You're not leaving me. You're leaving the system. You're taking the story with you. You're making sure the galaxy knows." Claire nodded slowly. "He's right. We have to tell them." Laura's eyes filled with tears. "But I don't want to lose you." Jack looked at her. "You won't lose me, not really. I'll be here. I'll be listening. I'll be watching. I'll be the seal." Laura's voice broke. "I don't know how to live without you." Jack's voice was gentle. "You live with what you learned. You live with the truth. You live with hope." He turned to the Guardians. "Is there a way to contact the galaxy?" he asked. The voice replied, "Yes. The network can send a message, but it will be a warning." Jack nodded. "Do it." The Guardians opened a channel. The message spread across the system, then across the network, and then across the galaxy. It was not a declaration of war. It was not a promise of power. It was a warning. Humans once ruled the stars, the message said. They left because they feared what they could become. The Guardians remain to keep the power locked. Do not seek it. Do not try to take it. If you do, you will face what we once faced. The message ended with one line, simple and clear: remember us. The message spread like wildfire. The galaxy stopped to listen. Some laughed, some scoffed, some cried, but many felt the weight of the words. They realized that humans were not the weak species they had believed. They realized that the galaxy had once been different. They realized that the story they had been told was incomplete. Commander Zaleth listened to the message on his ship. His face was unreadable. He felt something shift inside him. Not fear, not anger, something else. Respect. He had spent his life thinking humans were small. Now he saw they were not small, they were wise. He turned to his officers. "We need to leave," he said. One officer blinked. "Leave?" Zaleth nodded. "Yes, the Guardians will not stop us forever, but they will not let us remain. We must go and rethink everything." Another officer asked, "What about the Dominion?" Zaleth's eyes hardened. "The Dominion is built on fear. Now fear has been taken away." He looked at the stars outside. He felt the weight of his empire on his shoulders. He realized that the Dominion's rule was not stable. It was built on lies. He spoke quietly. "We will return to our worlds. We will change. We must." The officers stared at him. They had never heard him speak like that. It was not a command. It was a confession. The Valorian fleet slowly began to move. The Guardians released their hold not because they were defeated, but because they chose to. The Valorians left the system, shaken and changed. They carried the message with them. They carried the knowledge that humans had once been something great. Back in the human settlements, the news reached people like a warm light. They learned that humans had once ruled the stars. They learned that humans had chosen to step back. They learned that humans had built guardians to protect the galaxy. People felt a new pride, not the pride of power, but the pride of restraint. The galaxy began to change. Worlds began to question the Dominion's rule. Trade routes shifted. Alliances formed. People began to talk about the old human stories with new respect. And in the deep system, the Guardian Tower pulsed softly, holding the seal. Jack Carter stood alone, but he was not lonely. The Guardians were with him. The memory of his crew was with him. The knowledge of humanity's past was with him. He listened to the stars. He knew that one day the seal might weaken again. He knew that someone would come looking for power. He knew that the Guardians would wake, and he knew he would still be there. Because humans had once been terrifying, and they had chosen to be the protectors of the galaxy instead. A distress signal echoed, bringing forth the most terrifying beings. Aliens' rule over the stars crumbled when they found ancient human ruins.